So this was an interesting story. I kind of did a double take when I first saw it. Canada's federal immigration minister, Sean Fraser, who we've had a chance to speak to before, introducing a new plan. This would be to attract 10,000, up to 10,000 highly skilled workers to this country to fill what we are perceiving, I guess, as a labor shortage. There are a couple of interesting elements to this, but I wanted to start with, first of all, that number, 10,000 highly skilled workers. So the minister's on the line, right? Minister Fraser, thanks for being here this afternoon.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, look, the part that kind of surprised me, I guess, is the fact that these 10,000 workers would be coming here from the United States. That's where you're primarily trying to access these people from. Is that correct?
Just to clarify, the policy you're referring to is only one of 6 measures that we announced as part of our tech talent attraction strategy, which will take workers from all over the world based on the level of their talent, not their country of origin. But one of the policies is specific to H-1B visa holders, and that will target specifically workers who are currently in the United States.
Okay, so as I understood it, an H-1B visa for a Canadian to get into the U.S. allows a Canadian to go there to work if they can take a job. I think the old story used to be that it is not currently being able to be filled by an American. Is that what we're referring to here?
That's right. Although there's a unique moment in time that we're living through that made this policy particularly appropriate given the circumstances. We've seen tens of thousands of tech workers laid off in the United States. But one facet of the H-1B visa policy is that if you lose your job, you only have 60 days to find a new one. And if you don't, you have to leave the country. Knowing that there were tens of thousands of some of the world's most talented tech workers who were maybe being forced to leave the United States created a window of opportunity for Canada to put our hand up and say, we may have an opportunity for you to remain in North America by contributing to a Canadian tech business.
Okay, which sounds great, but then I wondered, does that mean for them to come here, if they qualify, would they have to had a job lined up beforehand, or are we just going to say, come on in and good luck, we hope you find a job?
We're going to be finalizing some of the details coming ahead, but I have no reservations about the people who've received an H-1B visa being able to find meaningful work in Canada. The H-1B visa is one of the most competitive processes for anyone to qualify when it comes for economic migration. We're dealing with the world's most highly educated and talented and experienced tech professionals and some other highly skilled professionals as well. These are people who will be a net add to the economy and will be a very short period of time, I expect, before they're gainfully employed, creating wealth for Canadians rather than taking from a finite pool of resources.
Okay, and they're going to have an open work visa for 3 years, if I understand that. Is that correct?
That's right. So they'll be able to transition between employers if they come here on an open work permit for up to 3 years. And of course, people who work in a highly skilled profession for a few years in Canada have a very good opportunity to transition to permanent residency as well.
So do most of them do that, Minister Fraser? Do most of these temporary workers end up becoming Canadians?
Well, it's hard to say with specificity because we've never had a program that uniquely targeted H-1B visa holders before. We do see about half of the people who transition to permanent residency in any given year are already here temporarily. Many started as international students. Others come in as temporary foreign workers. But this policy, I expect, will have a significant number of people transition to permanent residency and perhaps to citizenship. But the proof will be in the pudding once we actually have access to the data in the years that follow people first arriving.
So I know in the speech that you gave the other day, you also introduced something, and I've not heard of this before, called a digital nomad strategy. Can you explain, because that's separate and apart from this?
That's right. So people all over the world are more mobile than they have ever been before. This is true more in the tech sector than it is in any other sector of the economy. Of course, people who work in tech often have the ability to work remotely from their home. And we're saying that if you want to try living in Canada and you have an employer who's willing to continue to pay you, we're happy to have you living in Canada for up to 6 months on a visitor's visa while you continue to earn money from a foreign employer and spend money in Canada. The real unique advantage that this program has is that we've built in functionality that allows a person who receives a job offer once they're in Canada to transition to a Canadian work permit where they'd be able to remain and to continue to work for a few years. Many of those people, like we just discussed on the H-1B visa holder, may choose to transition to permanent residency. But in the meantime, this program allows them to take Canada for a test drive, figure out whether it's the kind of place they want to live. And while they're figuring that out, continue to live in our communities and spend money in our communities, despite the fact they may be paid by a foreign employer.
Would that then affect, say, immigration quotas in a place like Quebec, for example, which of course says, hey, we have our own control of immigration here. How would this program work here?
So the people who come in initially are coming in as visitors. Quebec has a unique aspect to its immigration policy where the person, before they work for a Canadian employer in Quebec or transition to permanent residency in Quebec, would actually need to be invited to do so through a selection process that's run by the provincial government.
Okay.
So for people to transition, they would need to have that relevant certificate, depending on whether it's a temporary or permanent residency that they might be pursuing. Of course, Quebec would be eligible to welcome them. It would be up to the provincial government to decide in an individual case whether they want that individual to be able to work temporarily or transition to permanent residency.
Good grief. Of course it has to be more complicated in Quebec. I wonder if these H-1B visas, so this is specifically right now for the tech sector, will it expand beyond that?
Well, an H-1B visa holder disproportionately will work in the tech sector. There are other highly skilled professionals who could qualify. We have not ruled out the possibility of those people in other sectors taking part in this program, but oftentimes they are highly skilled workers who will find work in whatever sector they may work in. But I do expect, given the nature of the program in the United States, that a disproportionate number of them will land in the tech sector in its truest form.
So I just want to, the part of this story kind of comes at the end for me that, again, kind of forced me to look at this and go, wait a sec. I know the government maintains that there's a labor shortage in the country. There's a number that says there are that many fewer jobs now than there were back in, say, 2016. Yet Statistics Canada says, and I'm going to read you the quote, I'm sure you've heard it, employers' difficulties to fill job vacancies requiring high levels of education cannot, in general, be attributed to a national shortage or local shortage of highly educated job seekers, kind of implying the fact, Minister, that, you know what, it's great to have highly skilled workers, but we don't have a labor shortage in Canada of those workers to begin with.
There's a couple of points that I'd like to offer in response, and I have enormous respect for Statistics Canada. I think they do extraordinary work that informs the policies that we adopt all of the time. The reality is, though, just because there may be a highly skilled worker who's currently living in my part of the country, in rural Nova Scotia, doesn't mean that we should expect that that person is willing to pick up their lives and their family and move to downtown Toronto where an opportunity may be. I think we have to understand that people don't make decisions in a vacuum, and that Canada is not some monolithic entity where workers simply just walk into a job that happens to open up right beside them. People are living their lives in communities in different provinces across this country. And though there may be, at certain skill levels, enough workers to fill the vacancies we have today, it's not as simple as saying that every worker can slot into every vacancy, because the unique facets of their life may cause them to reflect on more than whether there's a job open. The other piece that I think is really important that really separates this question about welcoming tech workers from the sentence that you just read from Statistics Canada is that what we see in tech is that companies from around the world move to jurisdictions where they have access to the talent that they need to grow. So this is not a zero-sum game where a new worker comes in and fills a job and that job is then filled and other people can't pursue it. Instead, if you have 1,000 computer programmers or software engineers show up in a particular city, you're likely to attract a new company who's going to hire computer programmers and software engineers. By bringing a pool of workers in a sector where companies and capital are highly mobile, we have the opportunity to grow the size of the pie rather than divvy out more pieces of a pie, each of which may be smaller than before.
So we're out of time. I would simply ask, as an addendum to that, are you, as the government, reaching out to those companies you're alluding to here and saying, hey, we want you to come to Canada, we're making the rules easier, and offering them incentives as well?
Absolutely. And in fact, we just launched a major ad campaign in big tech markets, and already we see that there is explosive interest. In the first couple of days, we've had 40,000 people seek information through our website from just primarily 3 tech markets in the United States. This is going to continue to receive global attention. And if the first couple of days or weeks since the announcement was made are any indication, there's going to be no shortage of people who seek to avail themselves of this opportunity, which is going to help us grow the Canadian economy, which isn't just good for tech workers. That's good for everybody in this country.
Minister Fraser, I want to thank you for your time. Very much appreciate it.
A pleasure as always. Have
Take
a
care.
wonderful afternoon.